Good morning, ladies, and welcome to the Women to Women National Conversations Tour. This is our exciting new series, Let's Really Talk About It. And today, prior to introducing our president and founder, Sarah Chamberlain, we have a couple of housekeeping issues. As you know, this is a listen-only webinar, but at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat box. So anytime during our discussion, if you have a question that you'd like to address to our panelists, please feel free to do so. We will do our absolute best to try to answer as many questions as possible, but if not, you can always email them to us at Women to Women, and we will submit them to our panelists, and they'll respond to you directly. This broadcast is being recorded, so it will appear later on this afternoon on all of our social media platforms, as well as our website, which is w2wtour.com. With all that said, I'd like to introduce Sarah Chamberlain, President and founder of the Women to Women National Conversations Tour.
Sharon, thank you very much. And Cecilia, behind the scenes, thank you. We could not do this without either one of you. And ladies, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Our nation continues to be rocked by tragedy and unrest, with the racial injustice, the global pandemic, and economic devastation. But we are so encouraged that our country is slowly coming back to normalcy as we hit the warmer weather. And fingers crossed here, ladies. I think we all need a little bit of normalcy in our lives. But just a little bit about the Women to Women National Tour. Until the pandemic, we traveled around the country in person, talking with women, having candid, frank conversations about issues that are important to them. We've had the pleasure of meeting many of you in person. And for those of you we have not met, we pray that we can get back on tour maybe this fall, but at least next year. So fingers crossed on that. We think it's important, however, with everything going on, to continue the conversation. So that's why we're here today. The virus may have caused us not to meet in person, but doing it through webinar has just been a wonderful platform that's weekly brings us together. We've had some amazing women from around the country, and we've talked about many different issues. We've had small business owners to challenges with virtual teaching and learning. Those of us who have kids at home know how tough that is. And then we had one that I really enjoyed, because this is a huge issue for me, is maintaining our sanity during this insane time. So we've had some great conversations. Sharon and Cecilia have great lineup yet to come next week as well. So today we have amazing women from around the country that have had the pleasure of meeting, some in person, some a couple I look forward to meeting. So our first one, we have Jody from Little Rock, and have had the pleasure of getting to know her. We have Patrice of Chicago, and then we have Lasenta from one of my absolute favorite cities, Columbia, South Carolina. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us. And Lasenta, we're going to start with you. I could introduce you, but I would not do you justice. So I'm going to ask you to please take a moment and introduce yourself to our listener.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Lasenta Lewis-Ellis. I am the president and CEO of LLE Construction Group, and we're out of Columbia, South Carolina. I am a licensed general contractor with a focus on not only general contractor, but also we specialize in construction management. And prior to COVID, our primary focus has been schools, your K through 12, your colleges, universities, charter schools. And due to COVID, we've had to pivot. So I look forward to sharing more into that. But we also provide LLE consulting, where now we're working with small business owners, providing one-on-one mentoring and coaching, and really looking at your business from a strategic standpoint and figuring out how do you scale and grow, especially coming out of COVID or going through COVID. So thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Jermaine Bankhead for recommending me to Miss Sharon Jackson to be a part of this. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Lasenta. Patrice, could you introduce yourself to our listeners today, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrice Darby. I am the founder and CEO of GoLogic. We are an innovative startup that is helping small businesses, especially brick and mortars, that were generating most of its revenue from foot traffic before COVID-19 hit. We're helping them bring their business online, digitalize it, and turn that foot traffic into revenue via digital traffic.
Okay, well, that sounds incredible. I can't wait to get more into that. And last but not least, Jody, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Spears. I own Living Pink Communications in Little Rock, Arkansas. We are a full-service agency. I own this with my husband. In October, we'll be celebrating 10 years. We focus on small local business marketing primarily. And the name Living Pink actually comes from the fact that I am a metastatic breast cancer survivor, and I've battled it 4 times. We decided that we would open the business and live life to the fullest, and hence the name Living Pink Communications.
Jody, that's great. Thank you so much. So, Lasenta, when I think about a male-dominated field, I think about construction. It's just the number one thing. As a president and CEO of a construction company, how has the virus directly affected your business?
So that's such a great question, because as we heard, construction was an essential business, which means we continue to move forward. We continue to work just to implement safe and precaution measures and use our PPEs. Well, because my primary client base are schools, and as you know, in probably the second week of March, schools completely shut down. So any work that we had in the making, any upcoming projects was cut to a halt. And so that left about 90% of my business not operating. But I'm very grateful that prior to COVID, we pivoted over into the affordable housing market. And because that was that 10% that continued to operate, but it really impacted my business. So even though we're considered essential, what I did learn is who we serve and how we serve can be impacted by COVID, and we have to be mindful that we diversify, our offerings in the community and not really specialize in just one area. So this has been a true wake-up call for me, especially being in construction.
So, since I have a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
Problem getting PPP or PPE equipment?
So initially for our site, we really put that on to our subcontractors, and we just gave them local resources that we knew about. But eventually, once it became more widespread and more people needed it, companies were looking for it, it was really difficult to find the PPEs. But now, of course, it's gotten a little easier. But some of my friends who own a small business, I don't know if you're familiar with Soapbox Soap, but they implemented, they do hand soap. Well, they started doing your hand sanitizers. And then I had local friends who sew and do different classes on sewing. Well, they started making face masks. So we saw a shift, but we saw a lot of small businesses figuring out how can I get into the PPEs and start selling it locally. So that made it a lot easier for us to have access to it here in Columbia.
Well, thank you, and I love the innovation. We just molded into making what we had to survive. So thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
So Jody, before we dive further in the conversation, would you share with us how the pandemic has affected your business?
Well, as you can imagine, my business is pretty much like the goal is to drive as much traffic, get as many people into a store, or as many people at an event, or what have you. It has changed it dramatically, because the idea of driving traffic or hosting events or creating some sort of big buzz that generates things, that's just not going to happen, because we don't want large crowds to gather. The other aspect of this is a lot of what we do is strategic planning. So I have these massive charts full, all of 2020 already planned out. We're all ready to go with all of our promotions. And that just basically went out the window. We were going to do a lot of stuff with one of our largest clients is a liquor store, it's a much bigger than just a corner liquor store. It's sort of a celebration store. And we were going to do a whole huge campaign on the Roaring 20s, which right now would not go over very well at all. And just it would fall flat. So a lot of what we're having to do, we're not pivoting our services. We're still offering social, earned, paid, owned media, but we're having to change the messaging. We're having to change the direction of what we're doing for clients. So rather than promoting an event, we're promoting the fact that the liquor store had the elements to create your own hand sanitizer. Rather than promoting people coming into one of our pizza chain restaurants that we focus on, we're targeting the drive-through and helping them create online ordering. So we're doing the same thing, but the messaging has changed. Sometimes the product that we're promoting heavily changes. It's just sort of adapting to what is appropriate for right now and helping clients meet these needs, as well as just basic messaging. Sometimes you have to simply create that overriding message about how you're treating your employees, how you're keeping everyone safe. So we were doing a lot early on Corona messaging about what they're doing and their policies. So it was a lot of, changing the what we're saying to the community, but still connecting our clients to their audience.
Well, thank you, Jody. Seems as if the word of the day is kind of adapting. So having said that, Patrice, we met you through one of our partners, AWBC, that they shared your amazing story about reinventing your business. Can you please share your story with our guests today?
Absolutely. So before COVID-19, I was the CEO of a company called GoNanny. That was my first tech startup. So we merged childcare with technology to solve a major pain point for families. Parents are oftentimes stating, how do I get my kid to and from? When they're talking about that, it's not about the vehicle, right? It's about how do I find a safe, dependable person I can trust to pick up and drop off my child. And so we built an innovative solution to that, where parents could book highly qualified nannies in short increments, 30 minutes, an hour, and only pay for the time that they use. And they're able to get safe pickups and drop-offs, as well as care in short increments. So we actually grew to $500,000 in revenue in 2 years. And from there, we recognized a scalable model, which was building the SaaS platform and equipping childcare centers and schools to execute safe care rides. And so we were actually onboarding 60 childcare centers. And we were also closing a $1 million investment round when COVID-19 hit. I'll never forget the day. It was March 19th when the governor of Illinois told all childcare centers they had to close down. And it was March 19th when I started getting phone calls from our investors that were investing in our $1 million raise that was due to close on March 23rd. And they had to pull out because they needed to allocate funds to their portfolio companies that were on fire. So it was in that moment when our revenue dropped to $0 overnight. And I'm sitting there, I'll never forget, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm thinking, we have robust technology, we have a dynamic team, who needs us now? And so we decided to pivot and take the same model that we were empowering childcare centers with, which was a SaaS platform, allowing them to utilize their workers that parents already know and trust to do safe pickups and drop-offs, which allowed the business to diversify their revenue, provide a vital service to parents, and give their workers more work. So we noticed that it was a win-win across the entire ecosystem. And as we looked at the restaurant industry and the retail industry, they needed a platform to operate in the new normal. So we talk about this new normal, and that means that now brick and mortar businesses have to switch to curbside pickup and delivery. Well, for the retail space, there wasn't a solution to help with that. And so we provided that solution for retail. And then in a restaurant space, the restaurants were being price gouged by big tech like Uber Eats and Grubhub, or they were shutting down because it just didn't make sense to operate. And so now our platform equips these brick and mortars by helping them execute the full operations of curbside pickup and delivery, putting 90% of their workers back to work. So we're creating new jobs and creating sustainable businesses, as well as helping them understand the data performance of their business. Data is king. And if we're able to give the data to these businesses and reports, they can analyze it and understand how they need to pivot, what they need to change, or if they need to condense, what they're selling, whether it's their menu or their inventory. And so that's a little bit more about GoLogic.
Thank you, Patrice.
Sarah, this is Jody. Can I add something to that? This is very interesting. I was reading an article on small biz trends, and when Patrice was talking about curbside, I wanted to make this point. There was a survey they were reporting on that said 57% of people said services like contactless payments and curbside pickup were behind them making a purchase from a local business for the first time. Yes. And 86% of consumers want a local business to continue curbside pickup even after. So the fact that you were able to pivot into helping retailers do this is great, because this has kind of helped people get over the hump of adopting this kind of curbside pickup or technology. People are having to do this, and because of that, customers are getting over the fear of it. They're more interested in doing it, and it's ideal for small businesses to really think about, if you're adapting, this is something that could help you in the future as well, and introduce new customers to you.
So Jody, thank you for that. I can tell you, my mom and dad, my dad thinks that is the greatest invention ever. He's like, I pull up and they put the groceries in, or, they put in. I don't think my mom and dad are ever going back to really going in the stores and shopping anymore. I mean, it was so fun.
And that has been around for a while for some companies, but people weren't doing it. Now they are. The fear's gone, and they're going to be more accustomed to it.
Oh, yes.
You would have thought that, world peace had been solved when he figured out that. So, yes. Thank you, ladies. On a little bit, Lasenta. Find that many of your facilities, you need to reconfigure their spaces to accommodate social distancing, especially your education facilities. How are you doing that?
Well, that's a great question, because we've been consulting with some of our clients and some potentially new clients on how do you implement a 6-foot social distancing. How do we make sure, even from a cleanliness standpoint, because we handle the facility management as well, like what type of products should we be using? So we've been doing a lot of consulting with clients and hopefully potential clients, just sharing with them. This is something fairly new in dealing with COVID, of course, for a lot of our school districts and a lot of our business owners, and really knowing what works. We're doing what's being recommended by our CDC. We're doing what's being recommended by OSHA. And when I say the CDC, which is, I forget what CDC stands for. I'm so used to using acronyms with the federal government. But we've been taking some of the guidelines that they've implemented and put out there, and really just sharing it with our business owners, like how often should you clean, how often should you use an aerosol, as customers come and go, making sure you go back, have someone, we call it a butler type style person in your facility that goes and checks and cleans behind people. So those are the type of conversations that we've been having with a lot of our clients, and those who contacted us for information. And believe it or not, because of social distancing, is really making the schools think about, well, should we open in the fall? Maybe we should continue to do the homeschooling and continue to allow the kids to work, virtually from the house instead, or maybe we'll bring them in 2 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week, and then we'll rotate students. So that is some of the conversations that are being had now. Nothing's been set in stone yet because we're still going through it. But that's a great question. And I'll share one more thing. One of the colleges that we're working with, we're going to be renovating their computer labs. So if the students come back in the fall, instead of students being right there next to each other now, well, we're moving computers and tables out and we're spacing them every 6 feet in a space. So, and then we're looking at the classrooms, moving desks and making sure that the students are not right there up under each other like that we're accustomed to. So those are some of the things that our clients are looking at and making changes so that they can accommodate bringing students back in the fall.
So thank you. I have to tell you, as a mom, my daughter and I went school shopping yesterday, school supplies shopping, because fingers crossed she's going back to school, but we got notebooks. We are ready to go.
Yes, and I'm sure you're going to get them at a good rate because a lot of students are now doing their work online, which means they're not really using paper. And, some of the supplies that we usually go spend $200 and $300 buying to start the school year, that may change now because my daughter does all of her work on her iPad.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So that's being impacted as well.
Sure is. So Jody, in the world of public relations, are clients changing their messaging to incorporate many of the current events, such as the pandemic or social injustice?
Well, first, with the pandemic, a lot of times social media had already started to develop into another customer service tool. A lot of people would ask questions or post comments or complaints on social media. So we're seeing for our clients, we're having to monitor their social media accounts even more so with people asking the continuous question, are you open? What is your protocol? Because we have sort of a hodgepodge of things going on in Arkansas. Restaurants can open, but there's a limit to how many people and the distance, and the restaurant chain that we represent has decided not to open their dining room simply because the logistics of opening the dining room would actually interfere with their really good curbside and drive-through pickup, because it's sort of a staging area in the dining room now. Plus, there's a lot of things they'd have to do to reconfigure the dining room. So we're finding that we're having to repeat messages about it being closed and trying to keep people, feeling positive about it, why we're doing it, why we're closed, the safety of everyone, and that we'll keep them posted. But we're finding that we're having to do a lot of responding to customer inquiries because it is so confusing as to what's open and what's not. So we're having to do that. As far as social injustice, I would, if you're going to post something, if you're a small business, it needs to have something behind it. I think it needs to be more than just a statement because those things ring hollow. So I think I would recommend if anyone is doing that, how else are you doing things to address social injustice, and be ready to stand by your statements, because I see some places, some large companies are posting things but they don't have a diverse board of directors, or they're posting things and then people will talk about their bad experiences. So you need to think about when you go into it knowing that you're going to need to back up your statements and think beyond just a statement. Think about how you run your business to make sure it is addressing the things that are going on in the world today. That's I guess those are the things in terms of messaging that I'd recommend.
Great, thank you so much. Kind of sticking with our theme of adapting and reinventing, Patrice, first of all, I want to congratulate you on winning the UPS pitch competition as an expert on reinventing small businesses versus via technology. Could you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you face with small businesses, and are they willing to change?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest challenge is a lot of small businesses aren't technology savvy. Okay, so you have this challenge of like, technology is really arduous. It could be intimidating. They may not understand how to implement technology, how to train their staff, how to make it a part of the business in order to drive revenue. And so I think the number one challenge is not being technology savvy, but then you also have the challenge of technology companies are not building technology for the small business owner. If they were, they would be using techniques in order to make it a seamless, easy process for that owner, that small business owner, to adapt to the new, system and to implement it in their business. And so the first thing out of the gate that we did in order to help solve that problem was we wanted to make using technology seamless, and we wanted to make it easy. So we started testing our platform on the baby boomer generation. Now, I know some of you know about the baby boomer generation. I'm a millennial. So when I speak about it, I'm talking about my parents. My mom and dad are in their 60s. And so we pulled all of our baby boomers together and we started testing our platform on them to make sure that if we're building for small businesses, it's not intimidating, it's easy to adapt, you can train your staff right away, and it works. And so I think that that's the first challenge. The second challenge is sometimes when you've been doing business a certain way for 10, 15, 20 years, it is hard to go into a new flow. So, the idea of, a restaurant or retail owner switching to curbside pickup and delivery, that mentally creates a mental block for them that they have to get over. And so the second thing we wanted to do is make sure that our platform provide advising through the platform to help them transition. Maybe it's, your menu needs to be condensed to the top 10 items that sell the most. Maybe it's your inventory, instead of selling prom dresses because we know the prom season is gone, let's sell streetwear, let's sell the everyday casual, let's get some business attire in there. And so for us, it's been, the challenges that we've seen is technology adapting and then pivoting, thinking about their business in a different way in order to get revenue in. And so we built some solutions in our platform to assist with that. I heard a report yesterday, a testimonial from one of our clients, that they trained their team in 15 minutes to use the platform. So that was a win there. And I think that as we begin to progress, we'll learn more about what small businesses need, and we'll be able to implement solutions.
Thank you, Patrice. So, Lasenta, supposedly, I don't know if this is still true, there's going to be 2 million new construction jobs in 2021. How do you actively recruit women to bring their skills to the construction industry?
Oh, so that's a great question. And I do want to say congrats, Patrice. That's awesome on the UPS pitch. So yes, if you think about it, there's about 10.7 million U.S. construction workers, and only about 1 million of them are female. So that's about 3.4%. So from my perspective, working with like NAMAC, the National Association of Minority Contractors, Carolina AGC, your NAWIC, National Association of Women in Construction, your National Association of Black Women in Construction, working in conjunction with the different associations that have been a platform in construction for years, just really developing an apprenticeship program or some type of program to educate women on construction, and also create an opportunity within recruitment for women in the field. And making sure that in creating these opportunities that we address, biases, we address harassment, because as you probably seen on movies, when women walking down the street, a construction guy's like, woohoo, they're whistling, and just making sure that we create a professional environment for women. And really the training is the key piece, I think. With the rise of unemployment, and there are more and more women who are becoming interested in construction. And so how do we create programs within the community that could teach women how to learn construction? So there's a program out of Alabama that I love. It's called the Morehouse, and it's for a women in construction training program. And I've actually been following them for the last couple of years because I want to implement something like this in Columbia. And due to COVID, we had I partnered. Well, we were in the process of partnering with a school district to offer a training program this summer for young women in the school system. And so I think too, we need to start young. We need to share with our youth about the different trades, not only just construction, but the electrical, your plumbing, your HVAC. I do think that we need to start early in the schools, as early as middle school, if possible, just educating them on what it means to be an electrician. Because I hear stories, where an attorney decided not to be an attorney to go become an HVAC technician and company, and he made more money in HVAC than he did as an attorney. So the opportunities, even for women, are there. We just have to create that educational platform where we train them and that we partner them, whether it's through mentorship or through some type of someone there to be a guide for them as we go through, because I needed that as I was coming through construction. So I think that's what will help us as we deal with unemployment right now.
Well, thank you so much. Cecilia, I'm going to turn it to you because we've had some of our listeners submit questions, and I want to make sure we get them in.
Yes. Our first question says, I own a temp employment agency for administrative services. Since the pandemic, I have supplied temp employment for restaurants. If I return to providing administrative support later on, am I at risk of confusing my clientele of my services?
Okay. Cecilia, who is it directed towards?
Oh, I think it's just a general question of, is there any advice for if you are pivoting your business, is there any advice for not confusing your clientele of your initial services or your post-COVID services?
Okay. Ladies, who would like to answer that one?
Well, I want to make sure I understand the question. This is Lasenta. So she's asking, so going through COVID, she just want to make sure that whatever new services she's bringing to the table, that she doesn't confuse those with her past services that she's offering her clients.
That is what it seems like, yes.
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
Okay. And I know, I'm sure Jody has some comments on that since she's really great at marketing. But I guess from my perspective, so I don't differentiate whether it's services I provided before or after. I just say these are the services that LLE Construction Group are providing to our clients. And if they ask us, what's new or how have we pivoted, then we share, well, based on the need and what we saw in the community, these are some of the changes that we've done so we can better serve you. But I don't think, and I hope I'm answering her question, but when we implemented the consulting, it was just an easy transition. Like some services that we pivot and that we start servicing the community, we saw the need, and it's like a true transition to offer something that that came up that's needed. I hope I answer her question. I'll let Jody or either Patrice come.
Well, I'll add, basically, you're still, in essence, you're pivoting in terms of the types of employment, but you're still offering a really great service to any client in terms of providing temp employees. I think it's a matter of just messaging, and then if you have a website or other messaging, you include that under categories that you serve, administrative and or restaurant waiters, or however you categorize. It really is about messaging. And I think that a lot of, like, we've had restaurants in our city, because the mayor allowed them to change a little bit of how they do their business model. Not only do they do curbside and takeout, they actually also have grocery. They're like mini groceries where they have locally sourced food that things that you're used to getting from them, and they have this, so they're selling it as a grocery store. They're just adding that as another service, but people are still going to they're still going to recognize they have curbside. It's just an additional service. So it really is about your marketing is you're still the essence of who you are. Your brand is still providing great a resource for people who need employees, but now this is just one of the many ways you're able to do that. So you just it is about just saying this is an added bonus, an added service.
Thank you, Jody. Cecilia, do you want to ask the next question?
Yes, the next question, the person is directing it specifically at Patrice, but I feel like anyone could answer it. How did you go about finding the right partner to collaborate with?
The right partner to collaborate with. At what point?
That's just the question.
Okay. Well, I'll share with you how I work. So when I was when we started GoLogic and building, I reached out to my network first to tap into right away to get this in front of restaurants and retailers. So I started collaborating with my network, and then there's people that have stepped in my world along the way as I built tech startups to assist. And so some of those people, have come from the women's business centers. I've been in a couple of accelerator programs like TechStars Accelerator Program. And so I reached out to my group of supporters and said, kind of told them exactly what happened and got them to believe in the vision that we were moving forward with. So I think there's a certain skill for creating buy-in with people to kind of come around you and push your vision forward. And I think I've done a good job of that to be able to collaborate with getting our product into the hands of restaurants and retailers.
Thank you, Patrice. Jody, I know you married your partner. So.
Yeah, that's how I chose my collaboration.
There you go. That's a good way. So, ladies, this has been awesome. But I have one more question to end us to stay on time. Before we leave, there's so much negativity in the news. Could you highlight, one good story or one experience from your company that's kind of a feel-good story? Lasenta, can we start with you?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I guess I can share. So once COVID hit, and of course, as business owners, we do have a reserve because we know that at some point our business can be impacted. Didn't realize it'll be impacted this much. But one highlight of it, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to apply for the PPP loan, which is the payroll protection loan. I'm grateful to be able to get approved for the EIDL, which is a 30-year loan at 3.25%. And I say that because those have been the lifeline of my business. And it gave me room to breathe and kind of step back and not be as worried about, how to keep the doors open. So for me, that has been one of my highlights in the last month or so, just to know that the financial means to continue to run my business is there. And now that business is picking up, I realized that it really was a lifeline. It really was what I needed to keep my business moving forward. But the other thing I'll share real quick is collaborations. So in the last 2 to 3 months, I've been really reaching out to some of our potential, not potential, but just other contractors in the community. And we've been partnering. We've been getting together and teaming on opportunities, and it's been a blessing. And I didn't realize, I've done it in the past, but I'm doing it more so now because it's working. And one good thing about collaboration, you assign who does what. So you're not responsible for 100% of it. You're working together as a team. And when you're a small business owner and you don't have as many, say, staff, because some of us, had to lay someone off or something, we had to kind of shift in who works on our team. Well, collaborating helps fill some of that gap. And so those are the two things that has been very critical for my business during that, the COVID-19. And I'm very grateful that, we still have our doors open where a lot of other businesses, unfortunately has had to close.
Lasenta, thank you for sharing that. And I'm thrilled to hear that PPP worked for you. We've had a couple of these calls around the PPP issue, and it's good to see a positive story. So that's great. Thank you for sharing. Jody, you want to share? You have a positive story we can share before we sign off?
Yeah, I have two kind of positive points. One's a quick thing. I'm loving that I'm seeing a lot more support for local businesses. I know there are some that are not going to make it through this, but I see on social media so many people when they're choosing where to order their curbside food or delivery, they're choosing a local business. They're choosing the local bookstore as opposed to the chain. Yes, you're still going to have a lot of Amazon packages going now because people feel better ordering online. But those that are supporting local have been really inspiring, that they really realize how important local businesses are. And local businesses are the ones that donate to your charitable organization. They're the ones who sponsor a local Little League team. So that's important. And also from a personal standpoint, I can't do anything to help with the pandemic. I can't come up with a vaccine. I'm not a healthcare worker. But I felt a little bit better that through my job, I'm able to use my skills for good. And like recently connected, AARP is one of our clients. We did a local Skype interview with the TV station on resources for caregivers during COVID. And that's important to me, that I'm able to get information to people. And something as frivolous as our liquor store has been doing a lot of virtual wine tasting and virtual talking about how to host a virtual happy hour, because social isolation is not good. Social distancing is, social isolation is not. So I felt like I'm feeling that we're making the best of the situation, and we're trying to get the information out, like promoting places that are doing hand sanitizer or masks, getting resources out to people. I feel good about being able to use the skills that I have and the connections I have to do my part. And I think we all as local business owners can, by checking in on other people, tagging our local businesses in any posts that we do on social, and just kind of doing our part to know we're in this together.
Thank you, Jody. I cannot agree with you more on the small businesses, our local small businesses. I grew up in a very small town in Western New York, and Main Street was the heart of our village. And if I wanted to sell Girl Scout cookies or whatever, that's where I went, to those small businesses. So I'm really hope that you're right, that we've gone back and we realize we have to support our local small businesses. So thank you. And Patrice, same
Yes.
you, please.
Absolutely. So COVID-19 hit, and we had to move our team to remote working. And so when you're in the office together, you're able to feed off of each other's energy. But how do you do that working remotely? That's challenging. And so what I had this idea, we were seeing so much success from our clients, our merchants, whether they were a restaurant owner or a retail owner. We're hearing so much success that I decided to bring 2 of them on to our team meeting call. So every week our team does a meeting call, and we're on Zoom together, And so at the beginning of this Zoom call, I surprised the entire team with bringing on 2 of our clients to let them speak firsthand and share their testimony concerning using the platform. Now, most of our clients are people that would have had to close down their business, their small business, or they did close down their small business, and they're using us to help them restart. And so this day, we did this last week, and my entire team got to hear and see the people that they are serving, the people that they are impacting. One lady, you know, she shared how she closed down her restaurant business and wasn't able to do Uber Eats or Grubhub because they were taking too much margin from her sales. And how she and her family started this. It's a small business, it's a family restaurant. And they didn't know how they were going to survive. And then GoLogic came in. And now they're able to get back up and running. And I believe the very day that she was giving this testimony, she told us that she did 300 deliveries through the platform. And so just to have our team hear that success and hear that we're helping businesses reopen, we're helping businesses call their workers back to work, and get the local economy back up and running, I think was motivation for us to say, keep going, we're doing good, keep pushing, we're seeing results, and our platform does work.
Patrice, thank you for sharing that. And ladies, thank you all for sharing 45 minutes of your time with us today. We really appreciate your insight. And for everyone listening, please remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and stay tuned for our next webinar. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone have a great day.